Hello, folks, and welcome to the Vertigo Tea Party and Tea Time. Today, we're going to talk about Nintendo's new creators program. Information just came out about this. They've been working on this for a while. We knew it was coming, and here it is. And boy, does it suck ass. First of all, I don't even know what I'm putting in the background of this video. I'm not recording myself. I just don't feel pretty today. So I'm just going to put random videos or pictures in the background. Sorry about that. Probably better off. At any rate, the Nintendo Creators Program, very interesting how they have set this up. In a nutshell, if you're not familiar, a few months back in ye old 2014, Nintendo started claiming people's videos, specifically with video or audio content, because I guess YouTube videos are mostly video and audio content, especially of newer Nintendo games, right? They started claiming those videos. It doesn't hurt the channel per se. You don't get a strike. Your channel's not going to get removed. But basically what happens is Nintendo says, hey, we own this game. You can keep it up, but we get all your ad revenue, which is great for Nintendo. And crappy for people who have, made whatever video is they made, because now they bought the game, they're advertising the game, and now Nintendo's also making money on the advertisement. So Nintendo said, okay, it had some backlash, as to be expected. Nintendo said, okay, all right, hold on. We'll get this fixed. We're hip. We're down with it, dogs. We know how the cool cats like to do the internets and the YouTubes. We'll get this figured out. We'll make everybody happy. So as everybody suspected, Nintendo made this new creators program terrible, because this whole internet YouTube thing is very new to Nintendo, and they're still struggling to get their head wrapped around how it works. So let's talk about why it sucks so much ass. Now, I could get here and talk, because I know there's a few people who are like, well, Nintendo should get all the advertising revenue for these videos. Of course, they have the right to do that. I'm not even going to get into that argument right now, because God knows I could make an hour-long video just about that. Suffice it to say, you're wrong. And, well, let me put it a nicer way. I strongly, vehemently disagree with you, even if I wasn't doing YouTube. And again, not really a topic of discussion for here. For the purposes of my discussion, I'm going to say that it is free advertising for the game, assuming the game's halfway decent. And well, given how a lot of crappy games sell very well, and a lot of people show off just how shitty they are, like Ride to Hell Retribution or whatever it is, I'm sure their sales probably went up pretty good after people kept showing how bad it was, which is mind-numbing. Anyway, you get the idea. So it's pretty much impossible to argue that YouTube videos help sales overall, and therefore it is a form of advertising. We can argue over the details, but we can at least agree to some extent that that is true. So going back to their new plan, let's talk about their new creators program. Now, first off, you have to apply to the creators program. Now, you can apply you can ask for your videos to just be added on an individual level, which means every single Nintendo game you make a video for, let's play, review, and we're not even going to get into the ridiculousness of having to register a game for a review, because that technically, I mean, there's a lot of people who abuse the fair use doctrine for Let's Plays and whatnot. Doing a review is fair use. That's part of the point of fair use existing, so that reviews can exist. And for them to say, no, we own the rights to it, is asinine. But anyway, I keep diverging from the main point. Anyway, you can either register each video specifically, again, meaning every single Nintendo video you do, you have to register with them, or you have to, whatever you call it, or you can register your entire channel. Now, the problem with the channel version is they will take advertising revenue from every video on your channel. So unless the vast majority of your content centers around Nintendo, you would have to be a complete fool to go this route. Now, they try to make it a little bit more tantalizing by saying, well, we'll skip that for now. So you register the video. So what do you get out of it as the video creator? Well, let's say I made a video on Mario Kart 8. What would normally happen with pretty much every single other gaming company on the entire planet Earth? I made a game, video, let's play video, whatever, video montage, 360 no scope, whatever the kids do these days. I put it on YouTube. I put ads on it. YouTube, of course, takes their share of whatever ad revenue they make off of that video from what they're paid, whatever is paid to them by the advertisers, obviously. And then I get the whatever's left. I get whatever's left of the ad revenue for that click, for that view, right? So what's different about Nintendo is now if I upload a Nintendo video, Nintendo now gets my share that I normally would get and gives me back a certain percentage and tells me I should probably be glad that I get that. So instead of me getting my part, I get a part of a part of a part. So yeah, you're basically losing money by doing videos for Nintendo. To put it another way, if I would have made that exact same video for a different game company, I would have actually made more money. And again, this is very important for people who do this for a living. I'm not doing that just yet, but it's something I want to do. And this is something worrying. And we'll talk about why in a little bit after we talk about why it's bad in general. So now you're getting paid less to do videos for Nintendo. You're paid less to advertise games for Nintendo. They get a cut of it. And let's not be confused. They are double and or triple dipping here because you buy the game to play yourself, obviously, show off, whatever. You also help to advertise the game that influences other people to buy it, so they make money from that as well. And on top of that, they also make ad revenue off the video you make to advertise the game that you bought so that other people might buy it. So they're getting a part of that. And how much are they taking? Well, it depends. If you register per video, if you do it on a per video basis, like we talked about before, you get 60%. So instead of making $1 for however many views, and don't think you get $1 per view, that would be horrifically out of, you would be way off base, not even in the same ballpark. But just for simplicity's sake, let's say you normally would make $1. Now with Nintendo, you would make 60 cents. However, if you register your entire channel, you'd make 70 cents. You get 70%. But of course, again, this is madness unless like every video you have is Nintendo, because they would take ad revenue from all your videos. And some of their stuff doesn't really make sense with that specifically. Because I'm going to be showing the registration rules here, if I'm not already, just so that you guys can take a look at it. But there's a few high points or low points, depending on how you want to look at them, that I wanted to hit up. First of all, they had to be specific games, and they've got a list of games. Now, Wii U, most of the games, and again, keeping in mind, this is Nintendo created games, not just games on Nintendo consoles, to be clear. So if you, for whatever godforsaken reason, played Far Cry 3 on the Wii and wanted to do a video of it, that's fine because Nintendo didn't make that game. You're just playing it on the Wii. These are Nintendo created games. So you see things like Nintendo Land, Super Mario 3D World, Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker HD, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, stuff like that. And they actually have pretty much every single console almost back to now. Even in the NES, they have also the Japanese versions and whatnot. So it's interesting to see there's no Smash Brothers, which I found interesting. So I don't know if that means you're not supposed to be able to actually do videos on that or not. Or maybe it's just not covered. I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure maybe somebody at Nintendo might know. You also have to disclose that you're sharing advertising revenue with Nintendo, even though they don't endorse it. Pretty strange on that one, I must say. Another thing you have to keep in mind, now this is not expressly pointed out in this documentation, but make no mistake, from the sound of it, it makes it sound like if you submit a video that has Nintendo content, but you use it in a way they don't like, maybe it's a little bit more adult in nature, or you're using words that they don't like swear words, it's possible that they don't give you ad revenue at all for that video. In fact, because they're aware of it, they might actually ask you to have that video removed. Maybe even go so far as to give a strike on your account if you don't remove it. Now, that's completely speculation on my part, so I'm not going to hold that against them, against something they haven't done. But it's something to keep in mind, because you know how Nintendo is about keeping the whole kid-friendly image thing going on. So it's not something I would put past them, but at the same time, as far as I know, they've never given anybody a strike and forced them to take down content they didn't like. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt there. So let's look at the revenue payments as well, other than the percentages. Payments are sent. So revenue shares are calculated at the end of each month and will take up to 2 months for payments to sent to your PayPal account, which in itself is pretty amusing. And they have system requirements for this program, which I found to be quite interesting. So why is this bad? First of all, this makes doing Nintendo videos unappealing. If you're someone who does this for a job, or even not for a job, if you make any significant amount of money doing this type of thing, again, whether you agree with it or not, it now becomes less incentivized. You're less incentivized. I think that's not even the right way to use that, but you get what I'm saying. You become less inclined to make these videos for YouTube or for Nintendo, because I could make the same video for another company. Now you could of course argue that, well, this game right now, Smash is super hot right now, so you'll make way more money with Smash just because it's more popular than any game right now. That's fair enough. It might be worth it. It might be worth losing a percentage. Is it worth losing 40% of your ad revenues? Are the views for this video going to be 40% higher than another game you've done? If so, then sure. Yeah, it might still be worthwhile to do. But overall, I think for a lot of people, it's not going to be worth their time to do videos for them. So it hurts Nintendo in that way, less coverage. Obviously, a lot of the big people either are getting so many views, it doesn't really affect them anyway. So they'll just make a little bit less money on these videos and they don't really care about that. Or they focus on Nintendo games and they're not going to stop. Or, various other reasons. They don't care that much about the money. They're making up the money that they're losing on Nintendo by doing other videos. And that's all, fair enough. It's your channel. You're free to do whatever the hell you want to do. Here is the problem that I see long term, because it extends outside of Nintendo. Because the obvious answer here for right now to this specific problem is don't do Nintendo videos, which has been pretty easy for me because I don't have a capture card. So I will continue my stance of not covering Nintendo games pretty much ever until they completely reverse this nonsense. But even if I was going to do Nintendo videos, I would definitely not do them now and not even just because I would lose money. I don't really get enough views generally, frankly, to make it matter. It'd be losing pennies, literally. So it wouldn't make a financial big difference to me. It's more of the grounds of the idea that they think, okay, you're advertising this game. We also think we should get paid for you advertising this game. I'm 100% against that. The other side of this is this. I don't want this to be successful, because what happens if Nintendo starts making pretty decent money doing this? Companies like EA, Microsoft, Activision, Ubisoft, they start going, now hold on a minute. We let people make these videos and they're advertising and people are buying the games because they watched them on Twitch or they watched them on YouTube. But Nintendo's onto something. What if we also get a cut of that advertising revenue on top of all of the other benefits? This is a win-win for us. We get advertisement for our games. The streamer buys the games, and the people watching the streamer sometimes will also purchase the games. Why not make some of that ad revenue as well? So let's hop in on this. This is where this becomes a problem, because now our little buddies at Microsoft, EA, Activision, Ubisoft, they start wanting to get their fingers into the pie as well. This is where this is going to start affecting everyone, including the people who are like, oh, it's not a big deal. Nintendo's just a small part of my stable. Well, now when EA and Ubisoft start sticking their hands out saying, ooh, give me some of that. Give me some of that. That's going to be kind of a problem. And because, despite what many people think, a lot of these YouTube folks who are popular are not making as much money as you would like to think. Obviously, people like Pewdiepie are raking it in. But a lot of these other folks, I've heard the numbers, like people see some YouTuber with like 200,000 subscribers. They're like, oh man, that guy's got to be rich. I'm like, are you out of your mind? No, it does not work like that. I promise they're not rich, at least not from YouTube videos. But again, I digress. So yeah, this is just not a good thing. And it just shows yet again And this is something everybody knows. Everybody knows Nintendo has no goddamn clue how the internet works, how YouTube works. They're always stumbling and screwing shit up. Let's not forget friend codes. I think, do they still have friend codes in the Wii U? I don't know. I don't boot it up enough, and I don't really ever add anyone. But like friend codes with the Wii, and then how like you had to convert your games from the Wii to the Wii U, which I guess is not internet specific. But if you've ever looked up the steps to try to get for virtual console games from a Wii to a Wii U, look it up on a video sometime. It's hilariously inept. And they just do a lot of things like this. And it's a shame because their games are great. And I have a lot of nostalgic feels for Nintendo. Technically my second console was a Nintendo Entertainment System. And then a Super NES, and I was, stayed in Nintendo camp for a long time. So Nintendo was a very significant portion of my very nerdy childhood. So it's painful to see them make misstep after misstep like this, but they just continue to do it because they just refuse to either investigate how this stuff works or they're just incredibly stubborn. It's probably a little bit of both. And, this is not, and it's not also lost to me that a lot of Japanese companies are bad about this. Sega in particular is notorious for being complete dipshits when it comes to things like how the YouTube and issuing strikes against people who've played like a 10-year-old game on their channel. Other absolutely ridiculous nonsense. Sega's worse. Let's be fair. Sega is much worse than Nintendo. But Nintendo just has a lot to learn. Some of these other companies are starting to come around. Sony put Twitch streaming into their console. I don't know if they have any kind of broad policies for Let's Plays, but they're not cracking down that I've ever seen on Let's Plays and stuff. Because again, they know damn good and well. And it's proven time and time and time and time again that people are going to YouTube, people are going to Twitch and watching people play these games and deciding to buy from that footage, from those people's reactions. And Nintendo is still like, well, they're just like, they just cannot change from their older mindset. And it's ridiculous. I don't think this is something that's going to hurt them, frankly, because I think a lot of the big people who cover Nintendo games aren't going to really care. They're going to take the high road, as it were, and say, oh, I don't really mind that I'm losing money on YouTube videos. And again, their channel, they can do whatever the hell they want. I don't agree with that. I think it could possibly bite them in the ass later on if other publishers and game developers decide to go this route as yet another trickle of income. I hope they don't, but we'll see. Hopefully Nintendo just completely ditches this idiotic creators program in the first place and says, just like most companies, well, not most companies, but many, many, many game companies at this point, and says, hey, as long as you're not having, Mario give Luigi a rim job, you can show Nintendo content. You can collect all the ad revenue. It's fine by us as long as you're not trying to do obviously shady crap like, make your own version of Nintendo and sell it, or, something bizarre like that, or make your own version of Mario and sell it. All right, I'm just going to kind of stick this right in here. I'm actually recording it after I've finished recording the rest of my rant because I think this is important. I made the mistake of reading the thread about this on NeoGAF. There seems to be a lot of confusion from people as far as I was blown away. They're like, yeah, this is a great thing. I'm like, what world do I live in? I think part of the problem people are seeing this, there's a few issues. One, people say, oh, well, instead of taking 100%, they're only taking 40%. Isn't that cool? They're only looking at it from that perspective, for starters. Another part of confusion is people are saying, oh, well, I mean, that's okay because don't most companies content strike or content match your ID, or don't they already content ID your content anyway? Aren't you already scared of getting a strike, getting your account taken down because you showed a Battlefield 4 video or something along those lines? To clarify this point, this is not a serious problem right now. Luckily, there was a scare back about a year ago in late 2013 where we were afraid this was going to be a problem. It's not really a problem. I'm not partnered with anybody but YouTube, so I don't get any kind of special content ID protection or anything like that. I very rarely get content ID matched. And when I do, it's usually either like well, it's usually music. It's usually music that the game company outsourced somewhere else, or like just a specific music that is being matched by the company. This happens very rarely. I put out a ton of content. I put out at least probably 40 to 60 minutes of gameplay video every single day. And it's rare that I get a content ID match. I might get maybe 2 to 3 a month. And that's being pretty generous. That's honestly, that's more than I get on average, but roughly 2 to 3 a month is a safe bet. And again, just being overly estimating. So it's not an issue of other companies coming in and grabbing all of the advertising revenue from these videos. And more companies are being very explicitly stating, you can make YouTube monetize videos for our games. We don't care. Sometimes, different companies do it different ways, but the thing that I see most often, obviously way more from indies, is, hey, do whatever you want within reason, obviously. And you can monetize your videos on YouTube and Twitch all you want. That's been the growing attitude. It's Nintendo's going backwards. Nintendo's saying, give us money for this. Other companies are saying, hey, go ahead and do this. I think that's the confusion. People think that this is some big problem we're constantly fighting. We're constantly having to deal with EA, Activision, all these companies coming in and grabbing 100% of the revenue, or even giving us random content strikes for this. You hear about the content strikes, but they tend to be rare unless you do something grossly inappropriate. You're probably not going to get a strike. If you put up the Lord of the Rings movie on your YouTube channel, there's a pretty decent chance you're going to get a strike. Otherwise, it doesn't happen much. Sega is bad about that, or at least was in the past. Some others companies have done this as well. I'm sure you've heard about instances like Total Biscuit and Jimquisition getting strikes because they negatively reviewed these games, which got reversed, by the way, because they were inappropriately put on. But this is not a problem. This is not a problem with other videos. I monetize tons of these types of videos, and I very, very rarely get content ID. So don't think that this is Nintendo doing a great thing. It absolutely is not. And again, the other side of that, I just don't get. That's some Stockholm syndrome shit right there. Saying, well, they were taking 100, now they're only taking 40%. That's great. That's a huge improvement. No, it's not. If you compare it to just Nintendo, if you look at it as only Nintendo, then sure, yeah, that's a great improvement for Nintendo. If you compare Nintendo to the rest of the damn industry, they're behind. That's 40% more than most everybody else is taking. Again, most companies are moving more towards either blatantly saying you can monetize your videos of our game content, or they're kind of like silently just letting you do it just because they don't want to deal with the lawyers, I guess. I don't know. But they know what's going on. And if they wanted to bring the hammer down on it, believe me, YouTube makes it overly easy for them to start content ID matching left and right if they really wanted to. But it's not happening. It's not happening. Again, I don't doubt some companies are doing it because somebody's going to go, oh, well, this game, I heard everybody was getting content ID match. I don't doubt it happens on some games. I don't doubt it happens on some videos. Again, it happens to me sometimes. But it's rare, and it needs to be made perfectly clear that Nintendo is the exception to the rule here and not in a good way. But anyway, yeah, that's Nintendo's Creators Program. I'll put a link to the frequently asked questions and other information in the description below the video, so you can make sure to read it yourself. And like I said, I've probably put a few clips of the actual page in this video as well for you to check out. And oof, man, yeah, Nintendo. We knew this was coming. We knew this creator program was coming, and I assumed it was going to be bad. And it's about as bad as I was thinking it's going to be. One thing that doesn't make any sense to me is this statement right here. You can only use channels or videos that contain copyrighted content related to games titles specified by Nintendo, and they must be your original creations. Be sure your video does not contain copyright material from third parties or content from unconfirmed game titles. So if you are insane and register your entire channel with YouTube, which by the way makes them pretty much a multi-channel network at that point, If, at that point, so how are they going to collect ad revenue on other games then? It doesn't really make any sense, because even they specifically say if you register your channel, then you're all of it's monetized. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So what if I have Deus Ex video, right, owned by Square Enix? They say like they can't claim it, but at the same time, I don't know. Who knows? It doesn't matter, because I hope very few people are crazy enough to actually go in for that. But anyway, that's my rant on this these ridiculous changes, this Nintendo Creators Program. Like I said, it doesn't have any direct negative effect on me currently, just because of, as I mentioned before, I don't really cover Nintendo games anyway. My concern is more of how it could affect other companies wanting to dip their fingers into that delicious money pie and wanting to take their bite out of it, because they say, hey, Nintendo was successful with this, let's do this too. But anyway, thank you folks for watching. Make sure to leave comments in the comments section below. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you're thinking, and I'll see you next time.